Hi, everybody. I'm not sure if I've been talking to nobody. So if somebody wants to let me know if I've been chatting to you in the chat, if you've actually heard me this entire time or not. But I'm Olivia I'm based in Toronto, probably been chatting to a lot of you. And we'll just do our intro one more time just in case.
Yeah,
I'll throw it back to you.
no worries. My name is Aisling. I'm originally Irish. I moved to Sydney about nearly a year and a half ago. So I'm an international recruiter here. So you'd be talking to Olivia first, over that side, and once then you've decided to come to Sydney, that's when you'd be talking to me. I may have been talking to a few of you already because I know that I've told a few of my Canadian educators to come and listen to this as well because it's a good refresher before you leave.
Exactly. So we're super excited to be able to connect with the Sydney office as well. We're dealing with lots of different time zones, and thank you in the chat. So, yep, the intros were missed.
Okay, that's
I'm
okay. We just
glad that
introduced each
everyone
other.
joined. Yeah, we were just chatting to each other. It felt like there was nobody there, even though everybody's cameras and mics are off in this call. I could sense that, there was nobody there on the other end. But
We got
um,
there.
we got there. So what we
Yeah.
will be covering tonight is pretty much we're just gonna intro. So if this is your first time connecting with us, if you've met us, through social media, we'll be sharing, a little bit more about who we are, who ANZ UK is. Why move overseas? Why is this something that we offer? Why should this be something that you want to do? The different types of schools that are available to you in Sydney, how the registration process is going to look to register to teach. What can you do already from home? So there's a lot of work that we can start, the processes and the Canadian team, the North American team that's on the ground here can support you in doing while you are, still at home. Living in Sydney, again, we have somebody who's there in real time and live time. Let's hear it from an expert. What is life actually like in Sydney? What are some places that maybe we should be looking at living? Rural teaching, and these are opportunities that are available in New South Wales as a state as well. The types of work that are available there too. And then what is it like working in Australian schools, community and support? And then we're obviously going to keep some space at the end for questions too. So feel free throughout to pop your questions in the chat. We'll have that live, but we'll keep all the questions to the very end and do a little bit of a Q&A. But again, this is for you guys, so please ask your questions. This is the perfect opportunity to do so. I'm notorious for it too. Things always come to mind when we hop off. So of course you can always send either one of us an email, but please, if anything comes to mind, don't be shy. Pop your question in the chat and maybe we can even unmute
Yeah,
some mics because it's always nice to hear from you too.
of course. And no question is too silly because I can
Yeah,
guarantee if someone is thinking of saying it, someone else is also thinking it. So don't be afraid.
exactly. And ANZ UK, who we are, why we exist. So we've been around for, just about 20 years now. We have over 300 staff employed globally. So we are totally worldwide, dealing with many, many different time zones, like we were just talking about at the beginning, with offices throughout Australia, offices in New Zealand, Canada. So we're based here in Toronto and in Vancouver. Um, and throughout Europe as well. So we are super lucky to be worldwide and be able to talk to people all throughout the world. And again, we've had this, if we've talked before in the past, you would have heard this from me before. And for us North Americans here, it's a little bit different. But the reason that we actually exist is because there are no school boards or school districts over in Australia. So in Canada specifically, we're used to applying to a school board or applying to a school district and then being able to find and search for jobs that way. Where in Australia, this doesn't really exist this way, which is why we, ANZ UK, operate and we liaise with the schools. So that's how we'll be supporting your journey overseas. So, we like to follow our promise and look, for educators who also are in alignment with our values. We're looking for exceptional educators, willing to try new things, experience new things. You're going to be living in a completely new place. As much as you think they speak English and they speak the same language as us down under, things are definitely different. I taught down there myself about 4 years ago now. So, I saw all the differences and the changes, but it adds to the experience and it adds to the culture. And it's literally was the best experience of my entire life. Our motto is definitely right educator, right place, and right time. And that's why we're constantly hosting these webinars and information sessions so that you are given all and provided all of the information that you need to be successful in your journey overseas so that you can be in the right classroom environment because there are so many other opportunities that are out there and different types of schools, which is why that'll be something that we're covering as well. This is my favorite slide because it says why teach abroad, and I just want to add like a little arrow up and why not teach abroad? Why would this not be something that you did? And especially coming right out of teachers college and you've been in your undergrad and why not get some experience overseas, get some experience different, and it will always still be relevant, something that you can bring back into your own classroom. It's great for your own personal growth. You're going to be experiencing life somewhere completely different, maybe somewhere that you didn't think that you would have the opportunity to visit ever before. You'll be developing your career. Like I said, I taught in several classrooms and classroom settings when I returned back to Canada, and I swear I was still teaching through the Australian curriculum and using lesson plans and resources and things that I learned in the classrooms overseas. So you'll be bringing that back as well. And then, that life experience. I met quite literally some of my best friends when I was abroad. So they're still my best friends now. We still get together yearly. And ANZ UK does a really great job at keeping the community and the social vibes happening for you as well. So confident that you'll have
Yeah,
a similar experience.
it is. It's always nice. And actually, on Friday, we have our first educator event. So everyone who's come over from January, February, March, and the start of April will be coming to our event on Friday, which is really nice for people because they get to meet other educators as well. Um, yeah, thank you, Olivia. So I suppose I'll just touch a little bit on my story. So I'm from Ireland. I grew up in the very, very middle. It's like the heart of all Ireland. It's called Athlone. It's split in two, so I always say I'm from the Roscommon side for anyone who knows Ireland at all. I travelled around Asia first from August and then 22, and then I arrived in Australia in December 2022. So when I first arrived, I arrived probably not the best time because it was December and it was coming up to 6 weeks holidays. But in the 6 week holiday period, that's when I got all my teaching numbers. My favorite thing about New South Wales is being so close to the sea. So I know that Ireland is an island, but I live in the very middle. So there is no water. There's a few lakes, but you wouldn't really swim in them. So being by the sea has been, um, I love it. And also, I don't live exactly by the sea. I can get a bus to the sea. And for me, that's such a novelty. So it's so much fun. Um, what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be telling you all about kind of the process of how to get your teaching numbers in New South Wales. So, as Olivia said, it's different to teaching boards. So, in Australia, there's three different types of schools. You have your private schools, which are private independent schools, public schools, which are government schools, and you have Catholic schools. So, there's three different types of schools, and we recommend that if you want to open your scope to all schools, to try get numbers for each or two. So, for example, be opening to working in private and public schools as well. Um, I'm not really 100% sure. Maybe Olivia, you can tell me, but in terms of private schools, there's a lot more in Sydney and New South Wales, compared to Ireland anyway, and compared to the UK too. So, um, the first step in getting your, I suppose, approval. So there's these three organizations. So you have NESA, NESA, so it's New South Wales Education Standard Authority. And once you get your NESA, that allows you to teach in private independent schools. So that's once after you get your NESA, then you can apply for your Department of Education number to teach in public schools. And once you have your NESA, you can then apply to the Sydney Catholic Schools to get your Catholic Schools number. So there's three different types of schools and three different organizations to work with them. So when you're registering in New South Wales, it's kind of like a three-step process. I see it as like stepping stones, so that's why I put the little frog in. um, because the first thing you have to do, so prior to getting your nest, prior to getting all of your numbers, is you have to apply for a working with children check. The working with children check you can only do onshore in New South Wales because you have to present yourself to a service New South Wales. So you apply online. I would recommend applying online when you arrive. And then you get a referral code in an email. You present yourself to Service New South Wales with all of your documents, and then you receive your Working with Children check. Once you have that, then you can apply for your NESA. And once you have your NESA, then you can apply for your department number. So I'm just going to go through the Working with Children check in a little bit more detail. So you can see the logo for Service New South Wales. There are a good few dotted around New South Wales as well. So depending on your location, definitely look it up prior to arrival. So it allows you to work with children. So if you're working with children check, you can work in before and after school care. You can work coaching. You can work as a teaching assistant as well. It says it takes 2 to 30 days. I don't know anyone that's hit the 30 days. It usually comes around quite fast if you have all your documents in place, and I'll go through that with you. It is $80. You must have a proof of address. So instead of the step one being your Working with Children check, I would also recommend you opening up a bank account when you arrive, because once you open up a bank account, you can use the address that you're staying in for your for your address to show that you are living in New South Wales. If you don't have an address or you're not really sure, you can always use our office. We have some people who use our office for your bank, for your tax file number, for even the Working with Children check. But once you do open a bank account, make sure you remember to get a letter that has the address on it, because you need that with your Working with Children check. So you apply online, then you get your referral code and you go to a Service New South Wales. You must have certified copies of your documents. So I'll be going through all the documents you can get from home in a second as well. All the documents as well must have the same name. Sorry, that's moving on for me. So if your name is James O'Reilly, for example, and there is a comma on the O, there has to be a comma on your passport, a comma on your visa, a comma on your bank card. So if you have a double barrel name or a middle name on your passport, make sure your visa does the exact same as well as your bank account, because we've run into problems with the Working with Children check if someone has a double barrel name, or if they have their middle name, or they have an apostrophe in their name, they consider them two separate people, which we know is quite silly, even though they've photographic evidence and like proof of identification. But just make sure when you're applying that everything is the same. Perfect. The next step. So once you have your Working with Children check, as I said, usually comes in a day or two. That's when you apply for your NESA to the National Education Standards Authority. This is your main step to becoming a teacher. So this allows you to teach in independent private schools. You can't skip on to teach in public schools. You need your NESA number. So that's why we say it's step 2. It takes 20 working days, and it does. So we're looking at about 4 weeks to get. So just be aware that when you arrive, if you really want to teach, you do have weeks without work, which in Sydney can be quite a lot because you're trying to find a house, you're trying to put down a deposit. I would recommend either traveling within these 20 working days or finding a different job to keep money coming in. NESA costs $100. And what you need to apply for NESA is you need a photo ID, overseas passport, a local statement. So we usually say like a bank statement, your visa, certified copies of all of your documents. And I would say documents are, you need your certified copy of your degree certified, a copy of your transcript certified with the date and completion and award on it. If you don't have these, you're going to have to then write to your university in Canada. That takes another few days. It takes them a few days to send it over. So the pre-documentation is really important. You also need a police check 3 months in date. So prior to leaving, you need to apply for a police check. You can have it with you, but it just has to be 3 months in date. So say, for example, you're coming over in May, I'd be recommending you start your police check in April. Because there can be, if people don't have that police check, there can be a lag in time. It won't take the 20 working days. It could take 40. Yeah, so that's the main things about NESA. Once your NESA is approved, how to get your document certified by NESA. So they must be certified and then uploaded onto your NESA account. So the certifying person must write on the copy. So you're photocopying them, and then I certify that this is a true copy of their original document. Sign their print and name, provide a contact telephone number, state the profession and occupation, write on the copy date certified, list the appropriate registration number, and an official stamp has to be used. When I was moving over to Australia, I got all of my documents signed by a solicitor in Ireland. This can be done in Canada as well. There is a list of people who you can certify, who you can get your documents certified by. So it's a justice of the peace or a peace commissioner, a principal, bail justice, barrister, commissioner of oath, judge, police officer at the rank of a sergeant, a bank manager, a sheriff, solicitor. I'd be recommending, if you are unsure, to check the website, as it can be a little bit different for Canada and Australia. Um, if you're getting one document certified, get all of your documents certified. Okay. Um, once you've done step 2, which is your NESA, then you can move on to step 3, which is your Department of Education approval to teach. So this allows you to teach in government public schools. This can take about 14 days. There's no fee. So once you pay for your NESA is $100 and it's a recurring payment every year. You don't have to, once your NESA is in date, you don't have to, there's no fee for your approval to teach. With the approval to teach, you get your interim approval and you have to complete 12 mandatory training certificates. You will not be allowed to teach in a public school if you don't have these completed. Once you have them completed and you have your interim approval, great, you can teach for the year. But if you want to have your approval for 5 years, which I would recommend, there's also a little interview you have to complete where you record your answers to the screen, and an academic test that just tests your knowledge and your English abilities as well. So that gives you then 5 years, allowing you to teach in a public school. So it just stops you having to submit your application every year. As well as that, once you have your NESA, you can work in Catholic schools, and that is done by the Sydney Catholic School Diocese. So, just recapping, registering in New South Wales. Step 1, you get your Working with Children check that allows you to work with children. Step 2, you get your NESA that allows you to work in private schools. And then step 3, once you have you can then apply for your Department of Education number, and that allows you to teach in public schools. If you would just like to teach in private schools, you don't have to do step 3. So you can just be working in independent private schools, that's fine. We would recommend having step 3, especially if you're coming over on a working holiday visa, because you're going to be working casual and temp, and there's more opportunities for casual and temp in public and private schools instead of just private. Okay, so just when you're registering in New South Wales, there are a few things you can do before you leave. As I mentioned previously, so you can certify your degree, a copy of your degree, and a copy of your transcripts. Ensure everything is officially translated into English. So if you have any degrees in Latin or any other language, make sure they are translated into English. Get a police check 3 months before leaving, and ensure your documents all have the same name. So they're the only things you can do from Canada, but they are quite a lot, because the whole process should be very smooth if you've certified your degrees and your documents and your transcripts, if you have your police check and everything is correct. So just in terms of that was for if you're a primary or secondary school teacher. We also do work with early childhood educators. And if you are looking for early childhood opportunities, there is ASIQA is how you pronounce it. It's Australian Children Education and Care Quality Authority. So working with ASIQA, it's an independent national authority that assists governments in administrating the National Quality Framework for Children's Education and Care. So it implements changes that benefit children from birth, 13 years of age. This is primary, I suppose pre-primary and primary. Monitor and promote consistent application of the education and care services, and supports the children's education and care sector to improve quality outcomes for children. So if you have an early childhood degree or a diploma, the process varies on your nationality and country of qualification. You can apply for your ASIQA outside of Australia, but you have to check if your degree correlates. So educators with international qualifications may need to go through ASIQA, but this will all depend on whether their qualification is pre-approved, and you can check that on the ASIQA website. And there's a top tip as well. If you are checking an ECT qualification, the only countries with pre-approved qualifications are Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji. Any other qualifications, you'll always have to check if they are diploma level. So once you go onto the ASIQA website, you can put in your degree and you can see where you have to get ASIQA approval for and if it will be granted. Perfect. Okay, so that's the process of getting set up. In total, we say it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get everything. That's if you have all of your documents in order, get your working with children check, your NEST, it takes 20 days, which is 4 weeks. And then your Department of Education number takes, we'd say 2 weeks. So we're saying 6 to 8 weeks max in total. Now, the main important thing in terms of working holiday visas is you're going to be on temp and casual. You can't take a permanent contract because you are work restricted on your visa. So in terms of work, you can take a contract. You can take a contract for 6 months, but majority of our working holiday visas come over on and look for like temp casual work. In terms of living in Sydney and in terms of work, we do have an area guide, which is really, really helpful, and we can link it to you after this webinar. With we're showing you exactly where our teaching opportunities are and an area guide as to where to live. So in the last few years, there has been a shift in terms of where the work has been. A lot of people come over on a working holiday visa, live in the eastern suburbs, for example, like Bondi, Beach, Bronte, Clovelly, Coogee, Maroubra, all that direction. They are beautiful areas. Number one, there's a housing crisis there at the moment. And number two, you're going to be commuting quite a long way because a lot of the work for ANZ UK Education is out west. Because the eastern suburbs are so saturated at the moment, as there's a housing crisis, there's still so many people coming over. Schools have educators knocking on their door, so that's why a lot of our work is out west. These schools out west are crying for teachers. So if you decide to live in the eastern suburbs, you must remember that that is going to be, you're going to have to be willing to travel. You mightn't get as much opportunities as you want. And you will be paying a lot on rent. Rent is also weekly or fortnightly as well, just to remember. So it can be a lot coming out of your account if you're only working 2 or 3 days a week. So we do have a Sydney area guide. We have all the places to live that are really good for looking at opportunities. And it has exactly on the map, for example, Glebe, Marrickville, Newtown, and all of these are also a bus from the beach. We also say as well, it's really good to live near a train line because the train goes out west in 30 minutes. um, Erskineville, Surrey Hills. It's actually where our office is. So once you arrive, and I'll have my screen with you, we always invite you into our office as well because it's always nice to meet face to face if you have any questions. And Surrey Hills is 30 minutes or 25 minutes on a bus from the beach, 20 minutes on the light rail as well. So they're just areas. So I'd definitely be having a look and doing your research prior to arriving. So the different teaching opportunities in Sydney that we have. So we have casual relief teaching. So it's kind of like supply work and casual relief days. If
Exactly.
you were working, is that would you call it supply in Canada
Exactly.
as well? Yeah.
Supply or substitute. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, we call it substituting at home as well.
Mhm.
Here they call it casual relief, CRT. So the daily rate of New South Wales. So once you arrive and once you get your NESA, just remember you are coming over with an international qualification. So your NESA degree is going to be provisional. Provisional is like the base. You can have conditional where you're still in uni. Provisional is where you start. You can, of course, go to proficient, but you will need a permanent job or a contract, and you will need a mentor. So there is quite a long process to, well, it is doable, but it is a process to become proficient. In terms of casual relief work, because if you're coming over on a working holiday visa, you are restricted to 6 months in one school and 6 months in another school. So our casual relief or our contract, even or our temp days, is $440 provisional. If you're proficient, it's 450. Now that is in a public school. Private is different. Private goes off their own pay scale. So there's two government bodies. There's the Department of Education and the private schools themselves. So the CRT range can vary. If you're looking at an early qualified teacher, daily rate is $317. Um, it says guaranteed 5 days a week. For ECT, that is correct. For teaching, it all depends on where you live. It all depends on whether you're available for a contract for 6 months. If you are looking to travel, we say 3 to 5 days. We work off this app called Ready to Work. We set you up on that. You can have it on your laptop or on your phone. It I suppose CRT work has so much benefits. It allows you to build relationships and networks with schools. It's kind of like a try before you buy if you're thinking of getting a contract, especially if you're coming from a new country. It allows you to have a look and see what the curriculum is like. It's flexible as well. There's a lighter workload, so you're not going. You once your day is done, your day is done, and you get to experience a range of settings and diversify experience as well. So, teaching opportunities, as I said, it depends on where you live. Living more central in them areas that I showed you in the guide have more opportunities. The eastern suburbs is 90 plus minutes travel on public transport. Um, if you are thinking you want to move out west, or if you're looking out west, just be willing to travel up to 90 minutes on public transport. Being realistic, a car gives you more options and less travel time if you are in a financial position to be able to buy one. 3 to 5 days a week. We also say be open to special education training as well, like learning support, or if you have any experience working in a special education school or in an autism unit or anything like that, make sure to say that to your consultant as well. Have your department approval to teach in public schools as well as private schools, as it gives you more options. Okay. Just looking at our work options for permanent. Now, I know there's going to be a perm webinar coming up as well, and Olivia can tell you about that after. So, just it's employment contract directly with the school. If there's support within your team and department, consistently leads to behaviour improvements. You also know where you're going to be going every day. There's career development. It can be organised prior to arrival. And Anzac offers CV and interview support. The only problem in terms of applying for permanent jobs is you must be on a permanent working visa. If you are coming over on a working holiday visa, as you are restricted for that 6 months, you are more than likely not going to get a permanent job, as the school will then have to sponsor you. Schools will not really sponsor unless you've been in the school for a little while and a sponsorship comes up. So we can't guarantee sponsorship, and in terms of permanent roles, we can't unless you're on a skilled visa. And I'll be going through a little bit about that in a second. So yeah, you have to be on perm contract and full working rights. We also do have perm consultants. So if you are on a skilled visa or you want to come over on a skilled visa, you go through the same pipeline. It's just it changes with me. I will screen you in terms of what you're looking for and put you in contact with a perm consultant over here. We do have a skilled visa webinar coming up on April 17th with an Australian migration agent. I'm on a skilled visa myself. I actually was a teacher and I taught all last year in Australia. I did primary and secondary, so you can actually teach them here with your qualification. And I'm going to be on that as well, telling you all about how I got my skilled visa, and that there's a migration agent going to be answering any of your questions. So if anyone would like to pop along to that as well, it's a really good opportunity. Just one thing I want to touch on just before I hand it back over is teaching rurally in New South Wales. So, if you are not really into the Sydney city life, New South Wales is huge. um, there's places in New South Wales that are a 7 hour drive away. We do have rural incentives at the moment where if you sign up for a contract in a specific school, there's a free accommodation, and this can all be done prior to arrival. It does increase your employment opportunities because you're signing up. You will have 10 weeks work in one school. It'll accelerate your teaching career as you will then have experience. And it's personally and professionally rewarding. I actually have a video to show you of one of our educators that we placed from the UK. And we placed her from the UK as well. She came over and did it. So if you just want to have a listen. Sorry, we also have a blog with a free, so our incentive at the moment is free housing. Their blog is there. I can attach it as well to the end of this webinar. And also just with the rural teaching incentive, make sure to have a look on our socials as well, because there's always jobs popping up for that. Oh, hang on. Sorry, no.
We might have to reshare with sound. I'm not
What's
sure if
that?
we can
Sorry.
hear it. We might have to
Oh,
unshare and then reshare the Canva with sound.
oh, sorry. Let me just do that now.
Right. This has been really, really informative and helpful, and hopefully everybody at home as well is in agreement and maybe thinking of some questions that they might need clarification on. Just know, obviously, we went through some things fairly quickly, but once the process gets started for you, we will be sure to include. Oh,
Oh,
we'll be
sorry. No,
sure
you can
to.
continue.
No, that's okay. We'll be sure to share this information with you as well. So it's not like, if you weren't writing it down quick enough, or you didn't get all of the information in this session, we'll make sure that we will share it with
Yeah.
you, process wise as well.
Of course. And I think I was meant to record this actually, and I didn't, but I am doing it again in terms
It
of the
is
UK.
recording.
So, oh, it is recording. Great.
Yeah,
So we can have that recording as well if anyone wants it. Too.
exactly.
I actually think this video might not be working because it says three
Let's
seconds.
see.
That's going way too fast. Okay, I'm not really sure why that is. Let me just skip on. So this is Georgia. I'll just explain. Georgia's been teaching rurally in Mungandai for the last term. So she did 10-week placement. She has free accommodation, so she's no overheads. She was teaching in a school with 30 kids. So her class, I think, had 12, and she was getting paid just like a normal teacher, as if you would in Sydney, as if you had 25 kids in the room. And she really loved her experience. So there's actually going to be socials coming out with Georgia in them. And I might try and attach the video as well to the email after this, because it's really nice to hear from someone who has done it. She really enjoyed her time. When I was interviewing her for this, I was like, I want to go. So it's just something to really consider if when you're coming over.
And it
Um,
guarantees you some work and
yeah, it
supports
does.
those accommodations in Sydney. Definitely, it's a great incentive that's being offered for sure.
Yeah. And it gives you 10 weeks to settle. It gives you 10 weeks to
Exactly.
find the curriculum. It also gives you 10 weeks to then be researching places in Sydney. And then you can decide what you want to do as well from there.
Right.
Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, obviously at the end we'll answer them, but I might just hand it over to you, Olivia, if you want to go through the work options in terms
Sure.
of, yeah.
So we went through this a little bit throughout as well. We have work available in early childhood, in teaching, so the CRT options, those substitute or casual relief teaching opportunities, as well as permanent support work. So TAs, similar to our educational assistants, we can
Hmm.
support you going over as well. We have some before and after care that would be available, as well as during different breaks. So during the term breaks and the summer breaks, there's summer camps that we can support you in finding some work in as well. And again, different executive opportunities within the company. Everybody, for the most part, that you will talk to with ANZ UK has one way or another taught with the agency. Um, been a TA with the agency some way. So it's really, really nice that a lot of our moments do come full circle and you'll be speaking to people who have kind of lived and walked and breathed and did the whole thing that you are all about to embark on as well.
Yeah, exactly. And just touching on community and events, as I said earlier, we do host social events when you arrive, because it's really important that, like, I came over by myself, solo, so it was really important for me to meet other educators as well. And we have a Facebook group, Educators Moving to Australia. We have welcome events. We've even some places do pre-departure events as well if there's a big group going over at the one time. So it's just a really nice way of also meeting other educators, because we always have something in common if you're an educator, and you always have like stories to tell, and it's always nice to know
Exactly.
someone before you arrive. So like the amount of people that write into the Facebook group being like, oh, I'm arriving this date, does anyone want to meet for coffee? Or even if like there's two educators coming over around the same time, I'll always bring them in together, just so someone always, like, you always have another kind of teacher there, even just to like
Exactly.
tell stories with, or like just have someone familiar.
And it's not odd or uncommon that educators are connecting and meeting each other on Facebook prior to arriving, and they've then found their roommate and they found their flatmate and they found who they're going to live with. So we've just posted, if you follow us on social media, on our Instagram and zuk.education.canada. Make sure you do. If you don't, you'll see we just heard from our Canadian educator, Lauren, who is kind of sharing her experience and that this is exactly what happened to her too. So it's really great community. Go to the events. We will hopefully be hosting something in Canada for pre-departure, for before you leave, as well as when you arrive. There will be welcome events too. Go to the events, show up early. There's no fashionably late. Get there on time. And yeah, it's a great way to meet people and as well as meet your consultants, meet the people who are going to be sending you to work every single day. They're great people to, your in your circle, and they're going to give you, suggestions for things even outside of just teaching. They'll tell you the pubs to check out. They'll tell you things to do on the weekend, what festivals are happening, where to go, where maybe not to go, and all of that. So definitely go to these events. And quickly, just we will cover what the process looks like again because we chatted a little about a little bit about, wow, it is really 8 p.m. on what is actually our Monday
Oh my
after a
gosh.
long weekend.
Yeah.
But we chatted a little bit about where to live and the guides that we're going to be able to provide to you. And there is so much more out there. It's not just Bondi Beach in Sydney. That's not all that New South Wales and Sydney itself can offer. So please, if this is something you're keen on, let's check out some other areas too. So no, we'll have the initial call. So again, like I've been saying, you would have heard from myself, Cooper, Donald, Victoria, who we have here on the ground, as well as Jillian in Canada. And then if you are somebody who's interested, maybe you have family, maybe you have friends in Sydney already, and that's really pushing you to go and find opportunity there as well. We'll make sure that we're putting you in contact with the office in
Yeah.
Australia and you'll have a consultant.
And majority
Once
of
you
the
go
time
through
the
all the
consultant.
paperwork,
Yeah. Sorry, it just
exactly.
said, yeah. I'm the consultant. Yeah, it's mostly me.
So then
So it's
we
always,
will support you in all of that, all of the paperwork that we were discussing, the police checks. What do you need? What does it mean to get something verified? It's okay that this could be the first time that we're experiencing all of these things. It likely is, but we're here to support your entire journey, and so you can build your own adventure and have your own
yeah.
experience while you're overseas as well.
And I can just say as well, by doing your research and attending these webinars, you make the transition getting your teaching numbers so much easier. Because I meet people who are onshore and they don't even know they need a police check. So they're waiting another 3 weeks. Then they get their police check and don't even know they had to certify their documents. So they're waiting another 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden, it's 3 months and they haven't even got their NESA yet. So if you have all of that documentation, like it's so good to go through this process. Like your consultant will tell you in your initial contact, then I will tell you again. And once you arrive, then we like go through it all. I'm always always available in terms of like email and everything. So you'll have my details, as well as your like initial contact consultant as well in Canada. So it's just important to go through that process as well. Once we get all your documents, once you get your NESA, we send your documents off to compliance, and they can that's when we become active on our system. So once you've booked your flights, online registration has been booked to confirm, you're in Australia and you have your registration and you're cleared to work, and that's when you become active on our side. You use the Ready to Work app, and that's when you then get work in the classroom.
Exactly. So we actually have an app that's built up and designed that you'll either be marking yourself as you're available or as you're not. And that's where you're going to see and be called to the different work and the different opportunities as a casual relief teacher um,
Yeah.
throughout Australia.
And that's what I go through when you come into the office. I go through the app in detail with you, so you don't leave without knowing how to work it as well, which is good.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
again, this is one of my favorite slides too of the why teach and travel with the NZUK. Why
We should
not?
change it to why not?
We'll add the little asterisk or whatever up at the top.
Yeah.
But we have offices throughout the globe. We can support your journey to Australia, and then we can send you to the UK if you want, or Australia then to New Zealand, or vice versa. We have so many opportunities. And as we keep saying, we really truly can build your own adventure. And as much as it is about going overseas and getting that teaching experience and experience in the classrooms, it's all about your life experience too, and what you're going to get out of it, and who you're going to meet, and where you're going to travel, and what you're going to see, and where you're going to go, and all of these sorts of things. So it's such a well-rounded experience. We'll support you with your visa. Your visa isn't the card that you are paying tapping unlimitedly, the thing that you think has unlimited funds. That's not actually the visa that we're talking about here. You need a visa, you require a visa to be able to go and work in another country. So you will be applying for that and we can support you in that as well. So there, again, we talked about and threw a couple of names out there. If this is the first you're hearing of a visa, if you still thought, like I did in my first webinar, that the visa was the thing that you tapped at the grocery store or wherever else you're going to pay, um, it's not. So don't worry, don't feel overwhelmed. We will go through everything with you and what these things mean. That's why we're here. That's why we exist. Um, Go to the events, like we just said, cannot stress them enough. Check out them on Facebook. This is considered an event. We're having a webinar right now together, another touch point for us to go, come together as a community, meet familiar faces and ask some questions as well. Our technology, we've been talking about the app. We are able to offer this to app to our educators, and it's unique to us as well. We're partnering with so many different opportunities. Sometimes we can offer Contiki tours. So there's always new things that are popping up. So make sure that you are keeping informed, and you'll see everything on our social media, as well as your resources and guides. So guides to support where you're going to live, guides to support how you're going to get there, guides to support the process, and everything else in between. So we really have you covered. We want to make this as smooth of a transition as possible. For us Canadians, you are quite literally picking up your life on the other side of the world and moving, to the southern hemisphere, a completely different time zone. It's already tomorrow in Australia, to
It
put it into
is.
perspective. So
Yeah.
we know
It's
that this is a
Wednesday.
big journey. Exactly. We
Yeah.
know it's a big journey, and we're here for you along the
Yeah.
entire way of it all.
And I can empathize because I've done it. I've
Me
done
too.
this. Yeah, I've done the nest, I've done the working with children check, I've done the department, I've looked for work, I've been on the app. So I'm just here to help you as much as possible. And I suppose the experience of it all, knowing that like you have someone who has, I suppose, been through the journey as well as good.
Exactly. Just gives you some peace of
Perfect.
mind, definitely.
It sure does. So, just last point, what to remember. So, get your documents prepared before you depart. Research where you're going to live. Remember, um, remember the areas that I said as well. Think of a timeline. So, just on your working holiday visa, I never actually touched the fact that you do need a visa. A working holiday visa is the 417 where you get a year working visa in Australia. It does come with conditions. The first condition is if you want to stay for your second year, you have to go and do 88 days regional work. So you have to go to rural Australia and work in a farm or work in helping the land. You can work in tourism in some areas. So you need to look that up if you need to go. Um, so think of a timeline for that. And obviously, if you know you want to stay for longer and don't really feel like going milking cows in the outback of Victoria, there is a skilled webinar on April 17th, and you're more than welcome to join, and you'll see my face again. um, but yeah, and in terms of visas and everything, just do your research. And yeah, the more prepared you are, the easier it is when you get here.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So we're just going to see if anyone has any questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second, if that's okay.
Of course.
Um, and wonder, does anyone have any questions? If you do, just pop them in the chat. Miss that intro. Anyone, or are we all covered? Might just wait for minutes.
I see a couple of people just typing, and just to
Typing. Yeah.
reiterate as well, if you're not familiar with New South Wales or what we're even talking about when we're saying New South Wales is a state in Australia. It's the state where Sydney is.
Hmm.
So eastern suburbs is going to be exactly what we were talking about with the Bondi and the Coogee, and likely what you're seeing on Instagram and all those beautiful places, which you'll be a bus ride or a train ride away from, because you're going to live more in the west, so that
Yeah.
you can get work every day, because it's really important that you can get to school so you can go and experience and do all of the amazing things that Australia has to offer. Because if I lived and taught in Melbourne myself, but if I didn't have that work on a daily basis, I wouldn't have been able to travel and see the entire country. So making sure that you're doing the things to support your work, so that that can support the rest of your life overseas.
Yeah. So Mariah just has a question there. Does the solicitor need to know you personally, or can I just go into a police station and ask a police officer to help me? So the solicitor doesn't need to know you. They're just confirming. So you're going to bring your actual certificate and a photocopy into them, and they are going to confirm that they are the same thing and stamp the copy to show that it's the same thing. That's when I mean certified, verified, that's what I mean. You literally just take a photocopy of it. It means you don't have to bring your physical degree with you, because if you lost that, that would cost a lot of money. You don't have to bring your physical transcripts. Um, get a copy of your passport, like photocopy, copy of your driver's license, copy of your visa, copy of everything. I had like a little plastic pocket, and I said, "This is my hard copies of everything. You can scan them then, and then send them into Nessa. Everything for Nessa as well is all electronic. So you can scan them and you can send them in. You can go to a police station, make sure it's the highest person. I think it's a sergeant, it has to be. I just know a solicitor just did mine. But over here, if you really don't want to get it done at home and you'd rather get it over here, that's perfectly fine. You can go into a police station here, no bother. Just another question there. If I plan to work in Melbourne for a bit and then move to Sydney, can I start the process of obtaining the work and material check in Nessa while I'm living in Melbourne? Or do I need to be living in New South Wales to start applying for them? So this is actually a really good way of doing
It's
it,
a great question.
because you can apply for your VIT, which is your Victorian license, which is your Melbourne state, prior to arrival. So you can teach in Melbourne. I'd recommend doing a little stopover in Sydney, because you have to present yourself with your work for your working with children check. So whether it's you're in Melbourne and you fly down to Sydney for the weekend, or whether it's you fly into Sydney for 2 or 3 nights, stay in a hotel by the harbour, wherever, and then fly to Melbourne 3 days later. But that's a really good idea, because it lets you apply for your working with children check. You have to present yourself to a service in New South Wales, and that's why you have to be on shore. But once you have the working with children check, you can apply for everything else online. So you can go back to Melbourne, be working, wait for your NESA to come through, then wait for your department to come through. And once you've all your numbers, then you can come to Sydney. Really good way of doing it.
Absolutely. So thinking of, Service New South Wales, like our Service Canada or Service Ontario, for those of you who are here in Ontario as well, you have to physically be there, which is why we always say there's a couple more hoops that we have to jump through as Canadians to get to New South Wales outside of coming to Victoria or Melbourne to
Yeah,
teach. But again, this is a great way of accomplishing
yeah,
it. Good job. Yep.
yeah,
Nice, Rachel.
definitely. Really good. And we just have a few more people typing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
That's
know for
awesome.
New South Wales, it can be a bit of a lengthy process. And that's why I suppose Victoria as well, like, because you can arrive and work the next day, because you
Exactly.
don't have that wait. The one thing I know I mentioned it earlier is just making sure you have something to fill that 6 to 8 weeks. I know we're used to, as teachers, being on holidays, but we usually have planned stuff for that time off.
Hmm.
And I can see educators getting quite frustrated by week 6 when they haven't heard from their NESA and they've no money and they're not working. So I always recommend either travel, find a different job, take a few weeks off 100%, but
Hmm.
it just be aware.
Definitely.
Yeah. I still have a few people typing, I think. Mm. When you say I need to present my degree, how is this different from my transcript? So your transcripts are all the modules that you've completed. Um, do you have transcripts, Olivia? Yeah.
We do.
And your degree is the one that probably people put up on the wall with your name and the university. And that's your degree, and your transcripts have all the modules that you completed throughout your degree.
Exactly.
So
And you
that's
can
the difference.
request these directly from your university. I'm pretty sure that they're accessible now through your university's portal. If you've graduated from university, you would have needed this like to also apply for different school districts and school boards in Canada as well. It's all very similar processes. It's just there's a couple more steps because you are going overseas. So just making sure that you have both of these copies available to you. Again, for us who are in Canada and you've applied to school boards here, think about apply to education and the world of apply to education, how you've uploaded your transcripts, you've uploaded your degree. maybe you can take a picture, you can take a scan, a copy of that. But
Mhm.
again, like we've been saying, don't bring your physical copies over. That's why you're getting all of these documents certified as well.
Yeah. And certified just means they're real. It's
Yeah,
just you're getting someone to say this is the original document, this is the copy, and this one is the exact same as this. That's the only that's I suppose what certified mean. As an overseas trained teacher, is getting the approval to teach quite a challenging process? No, it's not. Once you have, so your NESA, once you get that, your approval to teach, I presume you're talking about your department, it takes, or your government school, it takes 2 weeks to get, and it's all the same documents from your NESA. So you should have everything already. So it's not a challenging process, it's just doing the application again. If you have what I did, have a little Google Drive or a drive with all of your documents certified on it, scanned, ready to go, all you have to do is upload them. The application takes half an hour. Whereas if you're going, oh, I don't have this, I need to go to the police station to get this signed, it adds an extra day. So I think once you're organized and you have all your documents, it's the exact same documents for your department approval to teach. Yeah.
definitely. That makes sense.
Yeah. And the one thing as well to make sure everything is the exact same name, down to full stop, down to comma, down to everything, because that's what we've been noticing. I'd say in the last maybe 3 weeks, they're clamping down on that. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
everyone's getting too good at scamming these days. So
that's it. Literally, yeah, yeah.
So we'll probably
Of
hang on. I think we have one more question maybe coming
course,
through, but this has been awesome. I'm so glad everybody was able to join. I hope this was
yeah,
useful for everybody as well. Again, you will receive the recording for the webinar. If you don't, please send me a quick email, quick nudge, and I'll make sure that I get that to you because sometimes it's nice to just revisit and watch on your own leisure and you can see the slides and make it make sense for you too.
yeah, and pause it and everything. Mariah just has one question. Are there any documents that need to be certified that cannot get until in Sydney, such as a New South Wales police check, or is it only things that are copies? So you only need a police check from where you've lived for the last year. So you won't need a New South Wales police check. It's just to confirm that you've no prior convictions coming when you're coming over. That's
Pre-departure.
yeah, pre-departure. Um, so you don't need a New South Wales police check unless you've been here for a year. Then you'd have to get a police check if you're applying, say, next year. And then passing the test and interview part. No, sorry. So just sorry. I meant with the approval to teach from EK, I meant passing the test and the interview as part of the approval to teach process. No, it isn't. The interview is quite straightforward, and then the assessments you have to do. It's kind of like dog is to cat as tree is to grass, things like that. It's kind of like comparing the two. If you want, there are like little things you can watch on YouTube to help with it as well if you want to study for it. And you can retake it as well. Yeah,
And then Mariah
perfect.
just has a
Oh,
follow-up. I
sorry.
need one as I've been in Australia.
Mariah, have you been in Australia for the last year? So it's wherever you've been for the last year. Um, there's no harm in getting it. I know an Australian police check is, I think, like $20. Then yeah, I would. Yeah. Yeah, have all the police checks if you've been there, definitely, because they can't fault you on anything then. Yeah.
Or
Again, if you're really confused, ring Nessa. They're amazing. They're really good in terms of, like, I've had to ring them as a recruiter, being like, what exactly do people need? Because it changes a lot. And they were really nice and really supportive. So definitely give them a call or an email if you are. But yeah, you should get one then if you've been here.
awesome. Well, I think
Perfect.
that is it for tonight. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
I know it's
Thank you
late
for
for you.
joining.
You're
That's
so
okay.
welcome.
No,
Oh,
that
thank
was
you guys.
awesome. Again, if anything comes up, please don't hesitate to email us if you don't get the recording for some reason. I
Yeah.
think technology is going to be weird the next couple of weeks. So let us know and we will get that to you. Permanent Opportunities webinar is on the 16th of April as well. And yeah, can't wait to get you guys to Australia because, like I said, we're not sure what's going on outdoors right now in
Mhm.
Canada. It's crazy weather. So
Oh,
let's
really?
get to the sunshine. Yeah,
It's
it's
really
been
sunny
like,
here.
oh, There you go. I think you all should be sold. Thanks so
That's all I
much
have
for
to
your
say.
time and
Thank you
joining
guys.
us. Take
Hopefully
care,
see you all
everybody.
soon. Bye.
See you.